Former Attorney General Bill Barr says Donald Trump is not a victim and the former president provoked the federal indictment against him. Barr appeared on CBS News' Face the Nation on Sunday. He also said the charges against Trump are not a case of government overreach.
He provoked this whole problem himself. Yes, he's been the victim of unfair witch hunts in the past, but that doesn't obviate the fact that he's also a fundamentally flawed person who engages in reckless conduct and that leads to situations, calamitous situations like this, which are very destructive and hurt any political cause he's associated with. And this was a case that entirely of his own making. He had no right to those documents.
Barr also noted he does not like the idea of a former president serving time in prison. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane is following the latest for us from Washington. Scott, so let me ask you, where we are learning now that the Florida magistrate judge has issued a new order this morning related to the handling of evidence in this case. What do you learn about that?
It's not unexpected, Vlad, but it is telling. The judge has ordered today that Donald Trump not be able to share, post, or disseminate the materials in his case that are being handed over from the Justice Department to his legal defense team. He can't just put it out there on Truth Social or share it with America. Again, this is not unexpected, but it's important for any number of reasons. First of all, it's an order restricting access to evidence in a criminal case involving a former U.S. president. We are in uncharted waters in that sense. But also, it's an order, Vlad and Anne-Marie, restricting the sharing or keeping of materials in this case, a case that involves a former president allegedly illegally keeping classified materials.
So Special Counsel Jack Smith has signaled that he wants to take the Trump case to trial very quickly. As I understand it, the expectation is that one of the things Donald Trump's attorneys are going to want to do is extend this as much as possible before it gets to trial. So what could, they face? What could extend this process? And, could we see a trial that goes past the 2024 presidential election?
This case has a deadline no other criminal case in American history has ever had. It has a defendant who's running for president within 16 months. So this is different. This has a big asterisk and a big artificial deadline on it. Jack Smith not only indicated he wants this to be a speedy trial, it's one of the few things he's actually said publicly, that they will seek at the special counsel's office to exercise speedy trial rights, to get this thing to trial sooner than later. But all of this is relative. In the federal system, cases necessarily take months, sometimes many months to get to trial. And this case has any number of possible potholes to jam into. First of all, there are all the extra legal challenges that may come from the defendant being a former president of the United States. But also there are potentially classified materials that will be evidence in the case. It takes time to work through those. We'll see how many legal challenges the former president's defense team puts up, extending that time frame, potentially blowing past that artificial deadline.
Scott, as you know, this trial will be under the Classified Information Procedures Act. Explain to our audience what that is and what those rules are.
Oh, here's a Washington acronym for you. CIPA, C-I-P-A, a 1980 law that was passed to help protect the evidence that is presented in a case, in a criminal case involving classified materials, things the public shouldn't see. This is another one of those things, Vlad, that could extend the time frame, potentially by many months. More things to knot up this case and slow it down. Some of the materials that could be presented in this case need to be viewed in a secure facility, what they call a SCIF, a place where classified materials can be viewed and not removed. That slows things down. It might require members of the Trump defense team to get security clearances they may not already have. That takes time. But moreover, Anne-Marie and Vlad, this just provides more footholds, potentially, for the defense team to issue challenges, file motions, and stretch this thing out, which is why we're facing the prospect of a trial, if it goes to trial, that could begin in 2025.
So federal prosecutors still need to hand over evidence to Trump's defense team. Is part of that because we're dealing with classified documents and you can't just hand them over that easily? And so maybe can you tell us a little bit more about the process?
This is very customary. This is not unique to a Donald Trump criminal case. When you have a prosecution in the federal courts, the Department of Justice or the prosecutors must hand over evidence to the defense team. It's legally required. They have to do so quickly, efficiently, within a time frame. This is one of those cases. There's evidence that's been gathered. They have to share it with the defense, but as was expected, the Department of Justice asked for some restrictions to be placed on those materials so that Trump didn't just put them on social media. And the judge, the magistrate judge, agreed today and issued that order. But one footnote I think is worth mentioning. The judge who issued the order today is Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhardt of West Palm Beach, Florida. This case is still on a trajectory towards District Court Judge Eileen Cannon if it goes to trial and for future arguments and motions. She's a Trump appointee. She issued some controversial rulings in the litigation over the search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. It was later overturned by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals.
Yeah, a controversial decision that was in Trump's favor that was slowing
right.
down the process a bit. Scott, thank you very much.